Hello nerds, I'm pretty excited. It has been a long time since we've done a proper generally nerdy review, so this being probably the movie that I've been the most excited to see in over a decade, seems appropriate. We're talking about Dune. I'm going to share with you some thoughts from a nerdy fan's perspective, and then we're going to give it some grades and we're going to be on our way. But spoiler alert, I really like the movie.
Sequence start 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. I would like to introduce
Generally Nerdy.
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 Okay, so real quick, since it's been a while since we've done one of these, I need to refresh everybody's memory on how we do this. And actually, I've kind of amended it slightly as well since the last one. So it'll be a good starting point for all of us. First off, we're going to approach this in 3 different sections as far as grading the quality of this movie. The sections I have chose for this are source adaptation, storytelling, and enjoyability. And then we'll give it an overall grade because generally speaking, there are plenty of times where a movie is worth more than the sum of its parts. So that's why we're giving it 4 scores. So that's just the real quick how this works. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes real quick. Spoiler alert, if you are unfamiliar with the story, you haven't yet seen the movie, why are you watching a review of it? Aside from the fact that you should go watch this movie there, if you haven't yet, stop and do that. Anyway, so spoiler alert, I'm not going to censor the spoilers. It's just going to happen. If you don't want to hear spoilers, come back after you've seen the movie. So, and also potential spoiler alerts for the next movie because, I mean, there's going to be a next movie. Anyway, so we're going to start things off up in the beginning. We're going source adaptation. The source adaptation general score is an A-. So there is a lot going on here. This book is 600 pages, I believe, something in that neighborhood. So it's an impossibility to adapt literally everything that happens in this book. So that is definitely taken into consideration before you start making your comments down in the comment section. So the reason we're giving it an A- is honestly, there is so much that is absolutely right in this movie that the things that were wrong, a couple of them were bigly wrong, but by and large weren't enough to derail the general adaptation. I don't think that there's really much possibility to make a better adaptation than we got from Denis Villeneuve. So yes, there is that one major thing that they changed that we knew was going to be a change before we even saw the movie. That could change, but aside from that, that's probably the only thing. So anyway, so there is some things that I feel like they changed in the representation of this movie. And we're going to start with the biggest thorn in my side with this movie, and that is Lady Jessica. So Paul's mother, Lady Jessica, who is not married to Paul's father. Lady Jessica is a concubine. This is known. This is not the thing that I have the issue with. Lady Jessica, from my reading, and granted, the last time I read this book was some years ago, but from my reading of the first book, of actually the first 2 books, Lady Jessica is an insanely strong character. And on screen, we get a little bit of that, and she's also very rebellious when it comes to the Bene Gesserit. So again, we get the strength, kind of, but we don't really get the rebellion. It's paid lip service because they have to pay it lip service, because the fact that Paul exists as a male is acknowledging her rebelliousness. But we don't see that. We don't see her stand up to the Reverend Mother. We don't see that. We see her cower. And again, my recollection of the story is that Lady Jessica bugs the Reverend Mother. And so that's just a big issue for me, because the whole idea behind modern storytelling in popular culture is equal representation, and we're taking that to the length of changing the gender of certain characters in order to make for that equal representation. So when you already have a strong female character represented in this book, why would you subvert that strength in the movie? That just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So we're not gonna dwell on that too long. We're gonna move right along. The other big issue that I had with this, and this one potentially could be taken care of in part 2. We do know part 2 is happening, by the way, but this one potentially could kind of be taken care of in part 2, though we've already missed a lot of opportunities. And my issue here is Raban, Gurney Halleck, and Dr. Yu, sorry. Those three characters were severely underdeveloped. Like, we get the betrayal from Dr. Yu, that we see, but we don't see how devastating that is to House Atreides. We don't see the relationship that Dr. Yu has with this family and why this is so unexpected. What we're given on screen was almost like, oh, okay, so he was given enough lip service that I know he's a character, so I should have saw this coming. And I feel like the character of Dr. Yu was a little bit too important for that to be the case. Raban is... yeah, they're probably going to develop that character quite a bit more in the next movie. That's not going to be surprising, but we've lost some ground with Gurney Halleck because Gurney plays, what is the name of the dang instrument? Sorry, his balisette. Gurney is a troubadour. Gurney is just one of the dudes that I associated the most with in the original story, so that's probably why I'm so attached to it. And we do know, Josh Brolin has made it known that they did film some scenes with him playing the balisette and singing and doing the stuff, but it was deemed not necessary for the movie, which I can kind of see, but yeah, but aside from that, the scope of this, the visual scope of this, the manner in which the story is told, which again, we'll get to that in the next section, but just everything is so spot on aside from those bits. There's no way it could have gotten anything less than an A-. So yeah, that's what we've got for the adaptation. So let's get into the story next. And the story, so this is a giant book. So the story that was told by Frank Herbert is very difficult to tell by anybody who's adapting it to a different medium. So that kind of plays against the storytelling in the movie, because there's so much stuff that happens to it. So general score here, we're looking at an A for this. I feel like this is a little bit better. Again, I love this movie, so saying a little bit better here and there is really just semantic. So the scope plays against it a little bit because it's hard to tell that story, but also the masterful way in which you get Denis Villeneuve laying things out for you to see yourself is beautiful. And you don't have to follow this so closely. So when I first read Dune, the first like 3 to 5 chapters were really hard to follow because we're building this world, because we're getting into the lives of these people. Denis made everything seamless, and I thought that was very brilliant. Again, there's some clunky, a little clunky bits, but very, very minor nitpicky stuff. Another great element of the storytelling in this movie was the score, the soundtrack. Hans Zimmer did an amazing soundtrack that was nearly constant, and I feel like that added to the atmosphere of this movie, which definitely made the story feel more lived in, feel more visceral in a lot of ways. So if the music cuts out, then you know something is about to happen, or you know we're in the middle of a very important part, something like that. About 90% of this movie is scored, and normally that would bug me, but it was so well done that there's no way that could be an annoyance, and it helps tell the story in that way as well. So yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. By and large, the story is very coherent. You can follow it from beginning to end without really having any sort of prior knowledge of this universe. And that, in and of itself, is worth an A to me. So let's talk about the enjoyability. This is always the third section because you gotta enjoy it. Even if it's expertly done, there's still things that can happen where you don't end up enjoying the movie. And that is definitely not the case here. We have Timothée Chalamet giving a master class in acting. Like, I did not know this kid was this good. Like, yes, I understand Chalamet's been in a lot of things. He was actually one of the standout actors in the Woody Allen movie that he did, which is saying something because Woody Allen has a pretty good eye for actors. So Chalamet, I already knew he was good, but coming into this movie, seeing it that way, wow. And not to be outdone, Oscar Isaac gives the character of Leto a little bit more life than even what I had pictured in my head when I was reading the book. It just, the acting side of this is what made this so incredible, because all of these actors are at the peak of their game. And that is not to ignore Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen, because wow, he has maybe 5 to 10 minutes of screen time, and every second that he is on the screen, he is the weight. He is the menacing presence behind everything. Even when he's not on screen, you can feel his thumb just bearing down on everything that is happening when the Harkonnens are involved. It is, oh man, there is so many layers to this. And like I said in the story section, you don't necessarily have to follow it super closely to understand what's going on, even though you have all of the stuff and all of these, I cannot gush enough about this movie. So our overall rating at the end of the day is an A+. If you have watched this movie only on your HBO Max account, you owe it to yourself to go see it in the theaters. If you have only seen it on a regular size screen in the theaters, you owe it to yourself to go see it on an IMAX. If you've never read this book, that does not matter. If you've never read the book, then you will be excited to know that there is more to come. You will be excited to see everything that happens on the screen. If you have read the book, then you're probably already super excited to see your friends react to the second half of this story, because it is going to get bonkers. But thank you very much, nerds. I just had to do a real quick review. I'm going to try and streamline these from now on so we don't have more 30-minute review videos. But if this is your first review with me, then I will link to the other ones. You can click or tap the thing that happens on the screen here in just a second. I'm still inside my head about this Dune movie. It was amazing. Anyway, thank you very much, nerds, for joining me. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.